In this episode, Carlie and I are chatting with former NBA player Mario West about how to achieve any dream in life.
How you doing, Mario?
Doing well.
Can I talk to the listeners first? I guess that would be appropriate.
Yeah, but let me address the vouch guests. I'm gonna address them, and then I'm gonna see how you doing today, Lexi.
Not me. I don't care about me. I'm talking about the listeners.
I'm asking you how you doing.
Oh, I'm doing good.
Good.
Got a lot of things going on, as you can see. Trying to prioritize.
Listeners, we hope you are doing amazing as well. We are super excited to have Mario on today. The topic is about defending your dream and the way to do that. And so I'm excited to hear how he breaks that down.
Yeah, I want to give my personal Mario story and say, I don't even know how long I've been connected to you via social, but it's so interesting to me how folks can be connected via Twitter, Instagram, all those things, right? And you could be like kikiing it up and joking around, but also it's nice to get some good nuggets and information and just sharing things with each other as well. And so it was a few years ago that he actually hit me up and was like, hey, I'd like to send you my book. And I love to read. So of course, like I would say yes to that. And so thank you so much because he sent me the book that we're going to kind of be talking about today. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you being a follower and a connection that also likes to share and share resources and tips and ideas and things of that nature. So I just want to extend that appreciation to you as well as we get started.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity. I think this is a dope platform that you created to generate some amazing content and allow these stories and these storytellings to empower others. So thank you for allowing me to be your guest.
No problem. And let's actually introduce you for real.
Absolutely. Mario West is a retired American professional basketball player who previously played in the NBA for the Atlanta Hawks and the New Jersey Nets. He played basketball overseas for 5 years with 6 different teams, including the Dominican Republic's Cañeros del Este, where he helped win the league championship and garnered finals MVP honors. Mario is currently the director of player personnel for the men's basketball team at his alma mater, Georgia Institute of Technology, where he was a member of the school's legendary 2004 Final Four team and became the 2007 NCAA Slam Dunk Contest winner.
Ooh, fancy. And I just want to point out that on the back of his book, which is named Defend the Dream, the ultimate playbook to achieve any dream in life, that he has this photo in the back. And what you guys are looking at, for those of you watching the video, if not, look at the YouTube video, looking just as young. So shout out to you. I don't even know when this photo was probably old when you took it, when you put it on this book. Was it?
It was what, 3 years ago? 3 years ago.
Longer than that. This book was from 2016, I believe. That's the year you wrote it? That's what it says inside.
I'm tripping. Yes. So 5 years.
It doesn't seem like it's been that long.
Yeah.
So I'm giving you a compliment. I'm saying you look just as young, just as great. Nothing different. You know how sometimes folks are like, oh, doesn't look the same.
What happened?
Oh man!
But also, if you're watching the video, he has on what seems to be some merch. If I'm looking at this correctly, Oh, it is merch. In fact,
Defend the Dream. I love the title. Can you talk to us about, in general, this book that you wrote, Defend the Dream, and what kind of brought you to a place where you felt like you wanted to get all of your thoughts and all of, the hurdles and how you overcame obstacles and your playbook, why you kind of thought to put that into a book in the first place?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, I'm a firm believer, excuse me. I'm a firm believer of to whom much is given, much is required. And, we all have those moments where we sit back and reflect just on life, where we are, where we've been, and where we headed. And at the time, I was playing over in Argentina. So this is 2014, 2015. So I'm 31 at the time, and I'm playing really well. And so I'm kind of on the verge of like, hey, I'm transitioning from, retirement, but I'm also like, I'm chasing the bag. Let me be honest. You know what I mean? Like, I'm playing really well. And it's like, you know what, man, I'm gonna get this bag over the next 3 to 4 years, and then I will hone in and figure out what my next chapter is going to be, life after basketball. And two things that happens is that you either leave the game or the game leaves you. And so what happened for me was that the game left me. I ended up tearing my Achilles
Oh,
you
man.
know. So, you know, shout out to one of my idols whom I've had the honor and privilege of sharing a moment with and guarding him in the game, Kobe Bryant. But watching Kobe Bryant tear his Achilles and go to the free throw line and I'm just like, what? Because when I tore my Achilles, it was done. Like,
It was a wrap.
Yeah.
like, people thought I was whistling, but I was actually like screaming. I gave out a little, you know, like, you know, it was painful. So I say that to say that I'm sitting up in my room, my leg is propped up, it's elevated, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, you know, sometimes when we go through some type of, you know, tragedy or some type of obstacles, that's this all of a sudden, it's just sudden, it's like out of nowhere, we just get smacked and get knocked down. We ask why, right? But at that moment, because of things that I had already been through in my life, I didn't say why. I said, okay, God, what do you want me to do now? At that very moment, he said, you know what, it's time. So many times we put off, we say, you know what, when such and such lines up right, you know what I mean? I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. It's not going to be perfect. And we just keep putting off, putting off, putting off. And I really wish, to be honest, in all honesty, that I would have wrote that book like my first year in the league, because I could have got so much more support. I could have done so many more things on a bigger scale, but nonetheless, the book is out and I'm so, so proud of it. So at that very moment, God was like, look, you've been putting this off, man. You got to empower others. All that I've given you, you know what I mean? Like, it's your duty. And I feel like it's for us all to do. So that's why.
So in my head right now, I'm getting that 90s movies like skirt. You're probably wondering how I got here. That's how I'm thinking about it in my head with you letting out that little shriek that you just gave us. And so I want to kind of go back to ask you, as a child and growing up, was that always like the dream you had, was to play in the NBA? And kind of like, what did that look like? Was it difficult for you? Was it easy? It was in your cards. Everything kind of just worked out for you. Tell us a little bit about getting to that point. And then I want to come back to this moment as well, like with how you transitioned as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great question. So for me, let me say I come from a huge family. This is going to be shocking because I know everyone says like, "Oh, I got a huge family," but on my mother's side, my grandfather had 34 kids. He had
Oh my gosh!
my grandmother.
Yeah, you weren't playing.
Hold on, wait, 34?
34.
Okay.
Wow.
Go Jackson, 34. And 11 by my grandmother. And
Wow.
I come from, and then on my dad's side, it's a big family, but a lot smaller. So I say that to say that all of my uncles, they played basketball, football, baseball. Even my aunties were volleyball and basketball. So I come from a big, like, athletic family. So sports was it's just in my blood. And basketball is something that I just gravitated towards because of, you know, what I saw in my family. And then my favorite player of all time was Michael Jordan. So at the age of 7, at the Boys and Girls Club. So I was born in Huntsville, Alabama. And there was a Boys and Girls Club right in the projects where I grew up. And that was an outlet, you know, for kids to keep kids off the street and everything like that. And so, you know, basketball was just a means that I just love to do. And I remember telling my grandmother at the age of 7 that I'm going to make it to the NBA. And one day I'm going to buy you a house, a big old house. That was just like my thing. And I'm blessed to say that I didn't buy my grandmother a house because she didn't want to move. You know, old folks, they
never want to move.
Stay in their ways.
My grandma's surrounded by border houses. Like, grandma, we can move you, but she is not.
But they're not
worried about it.
But I paid off that house, and that was one of my proudest moments. That, you know, that was the house that I grew up in. My dad, you know, my uncles, you know, my auntie, everyone. Like, anytime you fall on hard times, one place you know you can go is Big Mama house, Grandma house, and that was the house that I paid off. And so for me, it wasn't a straight path, and I think that's important because it's why I wanted to write the book, because oftentimes when you have a dream, whether that's an actor, singer, engineer, whatever it is, it's not a straight path. You're going to have so many obstacles. You're going to have so many things that you're going to have to overcome in life. And for me, you know, early on, you know, I talk about in this book, to be very transparent, my parents were very young. They were babies trying to raise a baby. My dad was 19. My mom was 17. My mom got addicted to drugs like crack cocaine, and she was in prison, incarcerated for much of my childhood. So imagine, you know, my mom was my everything, you know what I mean? Like, imagine just going through that at 7 years old, all the way up until I was a teenager, and dealing with that, going to see my mom, speaking to her through a glass window on the phone. you know. And so one of my biggest motivators is like, you know what, man, I want to be in a position to help my mom. I want to be in a position to do things, you know, for my family. But, you know, when you come from the projects or you come from those circumstances, people, what they'll try to do, they'll try to put their fears on you, or they'll try to put limitations on you and say, you know what, man, you come from, how you think you're gonna make it to the NBA, man? You come from a single or broken home, or you come from, you know, X, Y, and Z. But my thing is, don't allow the limitations that others place on you to reduce the height of your potential. And that's something that I really just took pride in and said, you know what, I'm gonna rise above what everyone else thinks. And one of my favorite scriptures, not to preach those, is prayer of Jabez, enlarge my coast. And that's something that I had, one of my tats, my last tat actually, because it's on my ribs, it hurt. But that's what it's all about. And that's, you know, what it was for me.
That's a great story. And one thing that stood out to me though is the fact that you had a dream. And so I think a lot of times some people in those circumstances, you know, whether they do have a dream, and maybe more often than not, these kids have a dream, but then they do just let it get limited and maybe they just kind of scruff it to the side. Um, but as a young person, how did you do that? Like, how were you able to like stay in a space where you're like, no, I'm really going to work towards this? Or is that something that's easy to say in hindsight? Because I think a lot of times we'll look back and it's like, you know, we can say these things now, but during that time, was it easy? Like, did you really have the foresight to be like, you know what, I'm still going to make it and I know how I'm going to do it?
Honestly, I did, but I can't take, you know, credit. It's really my support system. Like early on, so my grandmother was the first person to instill in me, like introduce me to God. Like my grandmother was, you know, would walk in her room, she's crying and praying, and then after she's done praying, she shouted. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like tears of joy. So I would say early on that foundation of faith and just knowing that there are going to be trials and that you're going to have to work for things. And my grandfather, who was a brick mason and worked, you know what I'm saying? Like the things that I saw early on, just hard work, faith, you know, from my grandparents, even from my father. So at the age of 9, I moved. My dad and my mom divorced. No, actually when I was 5, but moved with my dad. And he was like militant. He was in the military. So his discipline, like he didn't allow me to, you know, it was like get up in the morning, make up your bed. It was almost like major pain. You know what I'm saying? Like that structure wouldn't allow me to succumb to anything else or settle for anything less. And
did you like that during the time? You weren't very rebellious?
No, I wasn't. You know why? Because one thing that I feared my dad. And, I'm not gonna lie, and my grandmother, in the sense of the sacrifices that my grandparents and my grandmother made. You know, I didn't want to let them down. You know what I mean? They made so many sacrifices for me. Even my dad, you know, had made sacrifices. And even though my mom was, you know, having her, you know, fighting her own demons and stuff like that, like I just want to do it. Like, you know, so often you see people on the verge of that breakthrough, but for whatever reason, they get pulled back and they turn the other way. And I wanted to break that chain for, you know, my family.
That's so awesome. And I guess I'm asking a lot about that because it seems like when you hear stories about people who are doing great things, many times they come from adversity or adverse situations. But I just always wonder, like, what is that thing where, you know, some people maybe it just seems like they have it or they don't have it, where they don't really have that perspective to like, oh, I want to make my parents proud, or I want to honor my grandma or my dad or whatever it is. And so that's what I'm kind of asking. I wonder what it is about some folks where they can see bigger picture maybe. But apparently it's a good thing that you did, because you went on to have a successful career in the space that you were aiming to be in. So then as you get to a place now where that career ends, did you not feel shattered at all? I hear a lot of stories about athletes where, you know, that's all they know and that's all they've done. And, you know, since they were a kid, all they do is work out, put layups up. You know, what did you kind of go through afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely. And also I gotta highlight this because I'm so proud, and I'm a passionate person. Like my love language is acts of service, and I love serving. So that's just me. Like I'm a person that just love helping others. So now I'm currently, just to put my little bit in, I'm working for the NBA Players Association by the grace of God.
Awesome.
Off the court. Of course, you know, the book was out before I got this job, and I can tell you more about my role. But you know, to your point, is that I'm kind of lost my train of thought of what you just asked. The transition.
Mm-hmm.
The transition. So to be very honest with you, and that's why, again, I love this platform, because I feel like I can share this and others need to hear this, is that I struggled.
Mm-hmm.
I say I struggled. So let me tell you what it's like, when you transition, right? It's almost like the Shawshank Redemption, where he's talking about, I can't remember his name. I think it's Brooks or whatever, right? And he was like, well, man, he got out in society, but he was institutionalized. You know what I'm saying? We played this game for so long, and we used to the praise and, you know what I'm saying, all those things that come with being, a celebrity or a figure. And so for me, the perfect analogy for me to describe my own personal transition, and I think a lot of others will be able to, resonate with this, is Batman versus Bruce Wayne. So when I put on that jersey and that uniform, man, I was Batman and respected as such, even though I wasn't the LeBron or, one of them top players, but still my local community, or anytime you just playing the NBA, it's like, man, you playing the NBA? Wow, you play against my superstars. You are respected and put on a pedestal like a Batman. But then when I retired, it's like, man, I'm not Batman no more, and shit. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm no longer Bruce Wayne either, because I don't have that type of money. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna have to keep working, to figure out. So I went through that whole identity crisis of trying to figure out who was Mario West, trying to figure out my why. From a financial standpoint too, it's like, yeah, I made some money and made a lot of money and did some great things, but also I could have done a lot of things more to put me in a better position where I could have, kind of moved differently, because now I'm working on a smaller budget and them checks are not coming in anymore. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not able to do some of the things that I was accustomed to doing. I could, but it's like there's no money coming in. So those are the two key factors that, I struggle with. And it was, at first, man, I didn't like going out into the community, because people ask you all the time. It's like, oh man, I remember you so and so when you did X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Like, it's like what 50 said, man, you was the homie. What happened to you, man? Like, I just hated that. And so I would like be incognito with a hood, and I hated people asking me, what are you doing now? You know what I'm saying? And nothing. Not only did I not know what I was doing, but I didn't know when I was going to be doing something. So I struggled, but that's just a part of life. You go through things, and you just have adversity, and you just got to keep fighting.
So thank you for sharing that. And that is so rare. I had a friend who recently got out of the NFL, and it's the same thing. He was like, everything I do seems so much lesser than, like, I've already won a Super Bowl. Like, what else am I, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the pinnacle of so many people's livelihoods. So you transitioned, you didn't know what you were going to do, figuring out who you are. Did you use some of the steps that are in your book to help you figure out your why, or to make that transition? Or was the book part of that transition? Like, how does that fit in here?
Yeah, the book was definitely part of that transition, because to write the book, I had to go through and live some of those painful moments. And one thing that we do, or I think we should do, we should recycle our pain. And that's how you're able to kind of push forward, you know what I'm saying? Because in life, some things are meant to stop you, or they can accelerate you. And so me writing the book was like very therapeutic. That was like the first step. Okay, look, let me put this out. Not only just the message itself, but also, you know what? I got my degree in business management from Georgia Tech. So now let me generate a second, income, you know what I'm saying, with this book and marketability. Let me now be a motivational speaker. Now let me open up a whole avenue, and use this platform to do other things. And so one of the things that really, really helped me, I took some time out. Like I said, I'm a firm believer of prayer and just sitting still in that moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think sometimes we can, move too much, and we can miss something. And it can be just something so subtle or small. It can be words or something like that on a commercial or a movie or something, or even a song that kind of triggers something. And so in that moment, as I was transitioning, I originally thought I wanted to get into coaching. Most guys that play, like, man, you know what? I want to do coaching. But just because you play the game don't mean you're no good coach. You know what I mean? And so it took me 3 years to kind of figure out, because as I was at Georgia Tech on the coaching staff, I was like, you know what, this role is cool, but it's not fulfilling for me. What does Mario West like to do the most? And that's when I wrote my book. I also started my foundation, a nonprofit, the Mario West Foundation, to give back, defend the dream scholarships at my high school that I'm proud of. I've been 2 years in a row, I've done that. And so then everything started to come full circle of like, you know what, what's your why? What wakes you up? What really gets you boiling and pushes you to every day to the max, and something that's just gratifying that you could do just for free. And that's how ultimately I really got into this role that I'm in now. It came open, I interviewed for it, and by the grace of God, I'm 2 years in.
That's awesome. What do you do for the NFL or the NBA players? Yeah, NBA PA.
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
NBA PA.
I'm
so,
like,
yeah, NBPA, NBA Players Association. So I'm a director of a program called Off the Court. Off the Court is essentially a transition program, right? This is how things come full circle, right? So we have a number of resources. We as the NBPA, we have a number of resources internally from programs, guys have player benefits, things to help guys figure out their passions and other interests off the court, but more importantly, to figure out their why, to help them. It's almost like, we are I'm a bridge to the other programs. So a guy may come and say, you know what, I'm interested in broadcasting, I'm interested in real estate, I'm interested in NASA, or even coaching. We have all of these things internally for guys to take advantage of, to get some real life experience, to see what it's like, from a day-to-day perspective. And then in addition to that, again, like we have their benefits and stuff like that. So I try to be proactive and intentional in connecting with guys and making sure, hey, just want you to know we have, X, Y, and Z lined up for you whenever you're ready to take advantage of. And it's not something that you push on guys, because a lot of guys are not ready to receive that. So I try to meet guys where they are. I just try to, my way of breaking the ice. I'm not sure. Do y'all follow basketball? This is
not as much anymore. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm sure y'all seen this meme. Have y'all seen the meme?
Now I'll see the memes.
Are y'all Lakers fans? Lakers? No.
Recently, I'm a couple.
I'm sure y'all seen this meme. So there's a meme that I've been the butt of jokes for years now. The Shannon Brown block. If you YouTube that, listeners, look this out. It's a block by Shannon Brown. Shannon Brown blocks my shot, right? And then the Lakers bench is going crazy. And so that is the perfect analogy or perfect segue to what transition was looking like for me and how this role is impactful. Because in the game of basketball, you want to get in transition. You want to score easy buckets, and you want to take advantage of the defense. In that clip on YouTube, you see me transition from defense to offense, and I'm unprepared, and I'm unaware of the obstacles behind me. And subsequently, Shannon Brown blocks my shot. He gets called for a foul.
Carlie pulled it up. That's why we over here laughing.
Oh, it's all good. So I say that to say that that's what happens. When you're unprepared and when you're unaware of the obstacles that you can face, because guys, they never retired before. So how do they know what transition looks like? And so when you're unprepared and unaware of the obstacles, you can get knocked down. So my job is to make sure that guys, it's not going to be an easy transition no matter what, but I try to make that process as seamless as possible.
And I imagine you can't prepare for not having a thing be a part of your life that's been a part of your life your whole life. So, and I think there are a lot of programs now that try to do that, like try to help them, like think about other things even while they're in the league and before that comes to an end. But still, it's like, how can you not just focus on the game while you can play the game? So I get it. I think that is very difficult. But it's awesome that there are folks like you who are able to kind of be there with that and like hold space without, like you said, not trying to force that on folks, but letting them know that that's available, letting them know what resources they have. I think that's very important.
And I think it's even more special that you've been there, because they can trust what you say more than if like I was the person doing that. They're like, girl, you ain't never played a day. Like you just play basketball like in high school, but like it's different when you've actually been there. And so I love how God lines those things up. Like this moment that was such like a earth-shattering, like life-changing moment for you has become a foundation for you to help all of these other players do the same thing.
Yeah. I think next we want to talk a little bit more about referencing some of the ideas that you talk about in the book. So I do love how you framed this book and laid it out like a basketball game. So you have your 4 quarters, you have plays within the quarter. I think that's very cool. And that's a good way also to connect, especially with the younger audience. Would you say you kind of had a younger audience in mind for this, or what would you say? For everybody?
Yeah, for everybody. And I tell anyone, I mean, they see the title, and of course, if you know me, you know my dream. It's like, but it's not a basketball book. This is about life. You know what I mean? And having a dream and willing and understanding what it takes to fulfill dream to that, basically.
But that's cool because I think in life, like most people can understand those types of metaphors. And so it's like easier to say, hey, break it down in this way and then apply that to your life. And so 4 quarters that you mentioned in the book were endurance, passion, humility and discipline, and faith and determination. So can you just kind of give us like within each, starting with endurance, kind of like why that was, the first quarter? Because I don't know if the order was important, if you were just like, that sounds good. But give us like a few kind of tips or like something around that. Like what was the purpose of the endurance quarter?
I'm gonna try to keep these simple because I can go off on a tangent. You know what I'm saying, y'all. So shout out to the late great Nipsey. It's a marathon, and in having endurance. Anytime you have a dream, you have to have endurance. It's like a boxing match. You got to have that stamina and understand that it's going to take time. It's going to take so much energy that you're going to have to come up with like over and over and over. And so the analogy with the whole basketball and I use for like the jump ball is that that's what your dream is like. Like you got to jump for it over and over and over. And seamlessly, sometimes it seems like the ball is about to hit your hands, then boom, it's going away. And then you got to jump again. You know what I mean? Just think of like people want to work out and you say, okay, look, jump for 20 seconds straight. Just jump high as you can for 20 seconds. They're going to get tired. That's only 20 seconds. So if you can't do that for 20 seconds, think of what it's going to be like for your dream jumping over and over and over. So you have to have endurance, number one, when you're pursuing your dream.
Okay. Second quarter, passion.
Passion. Well, passion, like you don't need an alarm clock. You know what I mean? Like when you're passionate about something, like you just do it, like you love it, like you pour so much of, like you don't even think about endurance. You don't think about nothing else. All you think about is just being your best version. And for me, like I said, that passion started early on at the age of 7. And it was something that, people all the time, they say, you know what? I want to do this. I want to do that. The proof of your desire is in your pursuit. I'm going to repeat that. The proof of your desire is in your pursuit. People desire, whether I desire to be married, I desire this person, I desire to be a dentist or whatever. But how do you pursue that? Because if you have passion, you're going to pursue it wholeheartedly. 7 days a week, 365, no days off, no excuses. You're going to get it done.
Yeah. And that's funny because we talk all the time about, one of the first things you got to recognize sometimes is it's cool to be like, I want to be better at this or that or a better person. But then if you look at your actions in your life and you say like, oh man, I really want to, make more money, but you're not really doing anything. You rather watch Netflix all day. It's like, you got to be real with yourself too about, well, what really is your passion? Because it might not be that. So that is a very key.
Quarter 3 is humility and discipline.
Humility and discipline. I think just with anything, you got to have, humility and understand, you can't, one of the things that I like to say is that don't get too high and don't get too low. You know what I'm saying? What they say even kill. And, sometimes, when things are going well and you can kind of be like me, you know what I'm saying? You get to feeling yourself and everything like that, but then you can easily get brought right back down. But then when you're at your lowest, you know what I'm saying? You got to understand like that is a temporary inconvenience for a major permanent comeback. You know what I'm saying? So just have some humility, just understand like, I'm no better than no one else. You know what I'm saying? I can start from the ground up and work my way up to be in the best position that I want to be in. As far as discipline, with anything, you got to have discipline. If you can't, how you do anything is how you do everything, and so discipline in your daily habits and also the way that you talk to yourself and put things out in the atmosphere, discipline in how you, take care of yourself, take care of your body. Those are some keys because there was a lot of guys that were more talented than me, but they just didn't have the fortitude, the mental fortitude to be disciplined every single day to work on their craft. And ultimately they didn't make it, or it was over before you knew it.
And that is so important. And in the book, it's evident, and also just in what we've been talking about right now, but you can tell that faith is a cornerstone in your life. And so that I like that faith and determination is quarter 4, because that's like, it kind of doesn't matter everything else, like how it matters how you show up in Q4. So you can talk about faith and determination.
Yeah, absolutely. So faith is just something that, early on, like I said, that my grandmother, I have to applaud Alberta West. Unfortunately, she passed away. It's been 2 years now. But man, we did some incredible things. And my grandmother, that was one thing that she instilled in me since day one, just faith. Faith in God, and faith in God, what he's given to you. You know what I mean? Like your ability, and be unapologetic in terms of who you are and the things that he's giving you. He's giving you the resources. But sometimes I think, like, when you have a dream and we pray for it, right? And we say, you know what, man, I'm gonna pray, I'm gonna fast, but then we pray for it. I mean, we check in the mailbox every single day. And when it don't come in the mailbox, we like, man, like, what's up, God, you late on delivering what you promised to me? You know what I mean? But that's what is going to sustain you, is faith. And faith in realizing, okay, I've had small victories. I can't dismiss those small victories. You know what I'm saying? And think, like, one thing that helped me, as I digress for a second, was thinking about what God has already delivered me from. So when I had faith in, whether it was an exam or whatever it is that I had faith in, and he allowed me to overcome that and be victorious. So it's like, look, God, you've already allowed me to show him that my faith in you was worthy. So now I'm in the midst of this, my faith is even stronger. And so you got to sharpen that. Faith is like it's almost like a free throw or a jump shot that is not something that you just have once. Like, you got to practice. You got to work it at that daily. You know what I'm saying? Like, because your faith can't waver. You know what I'm saying? So I'm constantly working, with my own faith, trying to become strong. And that's something that you're going to have to sustain and make sure that you're working at.
Those are good. Would you say that the order is important, the way you laid those out? Was that on purpose?
Yeah. Yeah.
like, yeah, I guess.
I think, no, but let me, back up in humility. I think all of them are important. There's no particular order. That's just the way that, we just, me and my co-author decided to outline the book, but all of them are equally important. So I would say one is more important than the other.
I feel like they could build upon each other, though. And I like how now within those quarters, every chapter was a play. And so a couple of plays that stood out to us, we want to ask you about. The first one I want to ask you about is, how do you build character in the face of adversity?
That is a great question. How do you build? So that is one thing that I would say is really challenging, because, when you're going through adversity, sometimes if you never experienced that before, like, you struggle, right? And you're trying to figure out, who am I? Why did this happen to me? You know what I'm saying? Or why am I going through this?
And sometimes when that's all that's why you struggle.
And sometimes that's all you know. So I would say, when you make it out, it's almost like a storm, right? The storm in itself, or let me back up. In the midst of chaos, there's opportunity, right? So in the midst of that adversity, that's when your true character is revealed. And then you learn more about yourself. I learned more about myself through the struggle than I ever did when I was, on that climb of success. And so that's very important. It's like, you have to go through those things, because you will never know how strong you are unless you are at your weakest. You know what I'm saying? When you came back from that adversity and then you saw, okay, look, my character, you know what? I'm strong. I got broad shoulders. I can take on everything that I'm facing right now in the midst, because number one, I know God has got my back. He's never failed me. Number two, I'm so passionate about what I'm going through, about what I'm going to accomplish. And then three, I got the discipline, humility, and I got the endurance to withstand all of it. So, that's very, very important. It's almost like this. I was reading something. I have daily devotionals, and I have a journal. I write too. I write, poetry. I write just notes. And I was going through my notes, and it was talking about character, and it was talking about adversity, right? And it's crazy that you just mentioned it. Sorry, I'm digressing. Don't think I'm crazy. But it was talking about the tea bag, right? The tea bag. Have y'all know about that? Right? When you put tea bag in hot boiling water, then its true character is revealed. You know what I'm saying? The flavor, and then it becomes tea. That boiling hot water, that's adversity. But then it's revealed of what tea actually is. And I just thought, wow, I just learned how to put that together. But that's very important, needless to say.
No, that is right. I like the tea bag analogy. I've heard like the, pressure makes diamonds and stuff, but as I enjoy tea, so I like that one. Another play that kind of stood out to me is finding your niche. Like, there's a saying that the riches are in the niches. And so if you could talk more about that. So you have a dream, you're immersing yourself in your craft, you're being disciplined. Like, what does it look like to find your niche?
Yeah. Yes. It's HOV. I'm gonna shout out the great Hove. I shout out a lot of people because I'm inspired by things they say and for songs and stuff like that. So for me, coming into, I'm gonna start back, right? I'm gonna start back at Georgia Tech. I was a small fish. Well, I was in high school. I'm gonna start high school. I was a big fish in a little pond, right? I was the man. Then I come to Georgia Tech. And then there's the humility aspect where it's like, man, I'm a small fish in an ocean. I ain't the man no more. So it's one of those things where you're trying to prove yourself and you're trying to fit in and you're trying to like really, really find your way. And from a basketball standpoint, it's like, man, everyone, they already had scores. They already had, guys to do other things. What was one thing that I could bring, an ingredient that I could bring to the table that wasn't, that I'm not going to say the other guys didn't have, but something that would stand out and ultimately help the team, but also help myself. And so I think it's very, very important for you to find your niche, find something that you're really, really good at. And oftentimes you're either born with something, a gift, or along the way you develop a gift. But either way, you don't betray it. Like you have to build upon that. And it's very, very important for you to harness that craft and find your niche and then stay in it and don't be afraid. Because sometimes, man, we like, you know what, man, which I'm not saying is that you can't be more than like an athlete or whatever, right? But find your niche and then build upon that. That is the solid foundation that everything else will evolve and grow from.
I like that. And then we noticed that at the end of each quarter, one of the plays was expect the unexpected, but then in the last one, you changed that to expect the expected. So tell us a little bit about that and why you kind of go from expecting the unexpected to actually expecting what you're working towards.
Yeah. So we'll start with the first part, right? Expect the unexpected. I like to call this, because in there I talk about like David and Goliath, right? We all are going to have some Goliaths in our life when pursuing a dream or just in life in general. And that Goliath being the insurmountable obstacles that seem like, oh my gosh, how I'm going to overcome this. But just like David, that little shepherd boy, and he came with that little slingshot, you know what I'm saying? He went in his bag, you know what I mean? And he, did his thing. You have to expect that, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just a part of life. Like, just, if everything was just a cakewalk, I mean, then everything would be easy. Everybody would do it. So I think expecting the unexpected and just knowing that, hey, it's going to be something. I don't know when, but look, man, if I'm prepared mentally and then also emotionally, physically, and spiritually, then me expecting the unexpected. And then when it comes, then I'm able to, overcome. And then expect is just, that's just, to me, it's just faith. Like, I expected to make it to the NBA. I really did. Like, and this is me being totally honest. Like, it wasn't so much my ability in the gift, but the giver. Like, he made a promise. You know what I'm saying? Like, oftentimes we pray for something, but we're not prepared to handle it. But I trusted that he was going to prepare me, whatever I didn't have or that I lacked, that he was going to provide for me. And so that was just my faith. Like I said, just training since the age of 7, putting positive things out there in the atmosphere, the way I talked to myself, the way I prayed and I cared about my craft.
I love that. We talk about often like our thoughts and the way we talk to ourselves, like we create our own reality essentially. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you believe you can do all these things, you start having those habits, you take those actions, you walk in it, and then it comes to pass. So I love those. I was thinking, because this book came out in 2016, I believe. After 5 years, like, is there anything in the book that you would change or update or maybe add? Like, the timeouts were my favorite, like the little pull to the side, like timeout, get your life together. Is there anything that you would like add or change in it?
I wouldn't change anything. Honestly, I've been on my co-author. Shout out to Shekinah Bolden, who helped me put together the book and did a fantastic job of, helping me put the book together. But there's a second part. And that part is, to me, is really where, as I mentioned earlier, is from dream to destiny. So for me, for what happened, just a quick snippet of what will be in the second book whenever I get that done, because I'm putting it off again, is that at the age of 25, I got cut from the Hawks, right? And I went overseas to China and got cut over there. And so what happened was I was like devastated. Like, this is something I prayed, passionate about. All I ever wanted in life was given to me. Then all of a sudden it was taken away from me, devastated, right? So what happened in that moment reminds me in the Bible when Peter, when he was walking on the water, and then he took his eyes off God and then he started to sink. That's really what happened to me. You know what I'm saying? That NBA lifestyle, I was just doing the most and everything like that, right? So sometimes we pray for something, we get it, but then we forget to really praise and thank the giver. We just focus so much on the gift itself. So I would say just looking back, when you get it, that's perfect, but don't forget to do those things that you were doing before when you got the gift. And that's kind of like, what happened. So that's kind of like the continuation upon the book. You know what I mean? So that's the only thing.
That's good. And we were asking if you had another book that was going to come out, or if that's something that you feel like you're going to keep doing. And it sounds like it's sitting probably parts of it on your laptop, but you got to get back to it.
Got to get back to it. See, I want to do that. I want to do, I was so inspired by All American. I'm putting this out there as well. I've had conversations, small talk about, I want that book to be turned into a TV series or even a movie. So that's something that I've been putting out there, and I've already, started Phyllis with that as well. Like, it's just so much that I think can get out of the book, and to expand on that. And the book is just the beginning.
That's cool. Well, definitely want our listeners to check you out. Mario West, Defend the Dream. I keep wanting to say defund, but I'm thinking about all these tweets talking about defund everything right now. Defend the Dream. And we want to thank you for being a guest. You dropped a lot of good gems, a lot of nuggets about life, and just, what are some of the important cornerstones to help you kind of get through with that. We want to shout you out. We usually do a shout out at the end. We're going to shout you out for being an awesome guest. And we want you to let us and listeners know if you have anything that you want to shout out, anything you want to tell people about, how they can connect with you, where they can find you, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank y'all again. This is, like I said, has been an amazing experience. Thank y'all for this awesome platform. Y'all are very beautiful hosts, and I really, really appreciate you guys for having me. You can find me on Instagram at Mario West 6. I need to get back on Twitter, but I think it's Mario West.
No, you don't. You're going to be like, ooh, I'm good.
For my book, go to mariowest.com if anyone would like to purchase the book. I also have a nonprofit. Anyone looking to donate to a nonprofit, it can check out some of the things that I've done in the community, which is the Mario West Foundation Inc.com. Check that out. And then I'm gonna just leave with 5 quick nuggets that I believe are my keys to success. Number 1, being bold in your declaration. You got to speak things into existence. Number 2 is you got to be diligent. You got to work for it, and don't confuse activity versus accomplishment. A lot of people, I use this basketball analogy when guys say, look, man, I want to get better at my game. And it's like, oh man, I've been in the gym 2 or 3 hours a day. That's activity. What did you really accomplish? Mm-hmm. The third thing, which is probably the hardest, I know it was very, very challenging for me from 7 to 22 when I actually got in the NBA, is be patient. You got to trust God's timing, trust the process, which is very challenging. And the fourth is believe that you're already equipped with everything that you need to succeed. If you don't believe in yourself, then how you want to, get anyone else to believe in you? And then the fifth is be prepared for a fight, be prepared for the opposition, and that's David and Goliath. I'm gonna refer back to that little shepherd boy with that little slingshot. So those are my 5 keys to success. And so, yeah, that's it.
We love it. Thank you so much. We appreciate you once again. And then we also end our episodes with a question of the week. So Carlie, I'm gonna let you ask, and we'll ask you first.
Absolutely. So this week's question of the week: what important feelings am I not letting into my awareness?
Can you repeat that again?
Absolutely. What important feelings am I not letting into my awareness?
What important feelings am I not? I really don't know how to, answer that. That's a great, great question. And it's on the spot too, so it makes it even more authentic. I would say, as men, sometimes I think it's not as, I'm not gonna say taboo, but maybe for us to show our feelings in that moment, true feelings in that moment. Whether we care too much or we really don't care at all. And sometimes um, I think I just care too much. I think that being aware and just caring too much, but it's something that, it's like wearing your sleeve. When you're passionate about something, when you're passionate about others, you can't help but, just trying to, channel that and work through that in the right way and make sure that it comes off in the right way. Because it's all about energy and what I pass on and transform to you and so forth.
That's good.
Mhm.
For me, I would say an important feeling that I am not letting into my awareness, maybe something like around appreciation. I feel like in the last few weeks, I've had a lot of great things happening. But sometimes, like you said earlier, with, great things happening and more responsibilities, now you get kind of caught up in the, all right, let me implement and, how do you make this work or make sure you hold on to it, etc. Whereas I probably need to take more time to really be, excited and appreciative of, the opportunities that are being put before me. So that's what I'm going to say.
Mm. Those are both great. I would say feelings of thriving and being safe and okay. Like I feel like so much of my life was like surviving, like all these skills to fight opposition and to get here and to claw my way up to, where I am, and being in all these good spaces that sometimes when I am safe, I still have the mentality of like looking for what could go wrong or like where I might be missing something. And so I think sometimes it's that feeling of like, you're okay. Like it's safe here. You can thrive here. You good. You Gucci.
That's
Gucci.
good. Yeah, that's important too. So, listeners, what important feelings are you not letting into your awareness? Look for Mario on Instagram. Check out his site, mariowest.com. Check out the foundation. Also, we want you to comment on the YouTube channel, on the site, carliescouch.com, Carlie's Couch on all the social media. And, let Mario know what you thought about it, what you got out of the episode, and let us know as well. So we look forward to engaging with you all. Thank you again, Mario. And we appreciate everybody. See you next week.
Bye, y'all.